The Vault of Silence presented by Absolutely Haunted. Welcome, hope you enjoy the video.
I've been sitting here for a while now. How long, I couldn't say. Time slips strangely through your fingers when you're dead. My thoughts come and go, drifting like fog across a forgotten field. Sometimes I find myself spacing out for hours, or maybe it's days. It was one of those drifting moments when I suddenly heard something odd, a noise that didn't belong in the silence of my home. I glided to the window of the sunroom, the one that overlooks the tennis court. The air outside was still, heavy with summer heat and the dry scent of dust. Then I saw him, crouched low, dressed in black. A man moving with stealth but not nearly enough. He was running toward the house. I think he's going to come in. The sound jolted me. I turned away from the window, my senses sharpened like they always do when the living trespass. Something was wrong. I moved silently to the top of the basement stairs. Low, urgent whispers rising up through the cracks in the floorboards. 2 of them. Without a thought, I flew down the stairs, keeping to the shadows, silent like a graveyard. I crouched in the darkest corner, listening. I've dealt with curious explorers before, kids, mostly, breaking in to gawk at the so-called haunted mansion. Then there are the people who come that call themselves urban explorers. I have dealt with those before too. But these 2 weren't here for a thrill. No, these men had a purpose.
"Tyler, you check over there," the short, balding man ordered the younger one, who looked barely old enough to be out of high school. I tilted my head and narrowed my eyes, studying him. The older man looked familiar. Think. My thoughts are like moths fluttering around a dying flame these days. Holes in my memory gape wider with time. But then, click, it hit me. Ron, that's his name. He works at the bank. My bank. Of course, they're here for the money. My money. Oh, this was going to be fun. They'll never find it. I chuckled, the sound curling through the cold, damp air like smoke. "Did you hear that?" Tyler whispered it. You could tell he was on edge. That kid had a gift. I have to give it to him. He could certainly hear me. Then we all heard something new, but this time it was someone else from upstairs. I could listen to him too, rummaging through the kitchen. "It's just Mick," Ron muttered. "He must have found another way in. Damn fool's making enough noise to wake the dead." I laughed louder this time. I couldn't help it. The irony was just too rich. If only Ron knew how fitting his words were. Unfortunately, my amusement nearly gave me away. Tyler flinched, eyes wide, practically leaping into Ron's arms. "Somebody laughed," he gasped. "Get a grip, kid. I didn't hear anything," Ron snapped. "Let's get up there and shut Mick up before the old man wakes up and calls the cops, or worse, hits a panic button." Oh, how little they knew. I followed them silently, gliding past the relics of my once carefully curated life. Artwork, heirlooms, paintings I once adored. They didn't even glance at them. Philistines. I sniffed, suppressing another laugh. Couldn't have Tyler fainting again. Then, just ahead, something moved in the hallway. A flash. Too quick. The shadow again. He always tries to warn them. I can't allow that. I picked up my pace. Funny. I was a recluse in life, barely seeing a soul for years. Yet now, I'd encountered more people in death than I ever did living. The only reason I even knew Ron was because I was forced to visit the bank. Too much money for them to ignore. They would have sent someone to the house to conduct my business, but I couldn't stomach strangers in my home. As I entered the kitchen, I found Mick digging through the boxes in the freezer. "What are you doing?" Tyler asked. Mick looked up, a cocky grin on his handsome, reckless face. "I once hit a house where the old lady hid cash in frozen food boxes. Ever since then, I always check the freezer." "Smart," Ron grunted. "Find anything?" "Nah, our guy doesn't like cold cash," Mick joked. Tyler spoke up. "I doubt he hid it here." Mick shot him a look. Then check the pantry. People hide cash in mason jars too. Just unscrew the lids. Really? I've seen it. I haven't. Let's just move on, Ron said impatiently. Tyler hesitated, then asked, "What if we run into the old man? What do we do then?" The room fell silent for a moment. Then Ron responded coldly, "Finish him." Finish me? My presence, concealed in the broom closet, bristled with rage. Break into a man's house, steal his money, and now talk of killing him? You filth. I couldn't stay. My fury surged. I left before I did something I'd regret. I drifted down to the basement, into the laundry room, to check on the hiding spot. What if someone else had taken it while I'd spaced out? Relief flooded me as I saw the dummy pipe beside the washer, just a capped drainage pipe to anyone else. But it was my vault, filled with cash I'd withdrawn and hidden there myself. A perfect solution. They'd never find it. Then I heard it, screaming from the third floor. Already, I darted upstairs, excited, heartless joy bubbling inside me. The shadow screamed at me as I passed it on the stairs. "Shut up!" I yelled at it. Always so dramatic. This was my favorite part. The scare, the panic, the moment they realized they'd walked into a nightmare. I arrived just in time. Ron was gagging. "Mick, did you see it?" Mick, pale but defiant, replied, "Yeah, I've seen worse." Worse? I felt a flicker of insult. Tyler was vomiting into the hallway toilet, his face green, his voice shaky. "I told you I heard laughing downstairs." He backed into the wall, trembling. I can't. Someone else will have to check that room out," he said. The argument over who would check the room was loud, disjointed. Finally, Mick volunteered. The other two scampered away to other parts of the house, like the rats they were. I watched Mick. He stood outside the door, trying to steel himself to step inside. Out loud, he said to himself, "You can do this," as he rushed through the door and into my personal nightmare. The room was dim. Moonlight and his flashlight beam were dancing across the dust-covered furniture. He rummaged through drawers, avoiding the closet. I rubbed my hands together, smiling. "Let's play." I projected the sound of a heartbeat, slow and wet. Mick froze, light jerking toward the closet. "That's so vile," he muttered. Then I moaned, "Help me. Please help me." I drifted beside him, leaned down, and whispered in his ear, "Save me." His flashlight swung wildly. His heart was hammering so loudly I could feel it. Then he saw it. In the mirror. Me. I was standing behind him, my dead eyes locked on his. He clutched his head in terror, stumbled back, tripped over my body on the floor, and fell, staring directly into my ruined face. He didn't scream. Not because he didn't want to, because he couldn't. Tears streamed down his face as he scrambled away from the corpse. My corpse, his breath ragged, his hands shaking. He made it to his feet and bolted, slamming into the wall and almost tumbling down the stairs. For a moment, I thought he'd fall. But the shadow caught him. It reached out, steadied him, then vanished. Mick fled the third floor. Somewhere on the second floor he found his voice. He landed on the ground level of the house screaming, and his screaming never stopped all the while he was fleeing across the courts. The other two followed him. Their courage had fled with the breaking of their strongest member. Gone. Just like that. And now, it was over. But it wasn't. I looked down at the thing Mick had tripped over. My body. The back of my skull cracked, crushed. Normally, I would have pursued them. But seeing myself like this, well, it was like someone had pulled a plug on me. My energy gone suddenly. I stared in horror. My pet cats had eaten parts of my scalp away, so much so that parts of my skull were visible, white. My death, so accidental, yet it was such a stupid way to die. Even the animals, I thought sadly, had abandoned me. I became aware of the shadow rising through the floor. I sat down beside my remains, sadness drowning me. "You probably want to know what happened," I said to him. It was the bowling ball. I had this new idea for a hiding spot. Pulled off a piece of trim, I cut out a bit of the wall behind to stash more cash. It was a good idea as the trim would have hidden the hole well, but I forgot the bowling ball on the high shelf. I bumped the wall, and crack, just like that. I died. I saw the light. I did. But the money, it was here. Who would protect it? No one ever came looking for me, so here I lie. In life, I had no friends, no family. There have only been thieves and thrill seekers, just the money. It's all I ever had. I cried. I sobbed while the shadow drifted closer and began to change. I bet this makes you happy seeing me crying, I said bitterly.
Not really.
He replied, his voice gentle. He looked at me with compassion. I liked it better when he looked like a shadow. His real face reminded me what I had done. Don't feel sorry for me, I spat. I hit you with a shovel. He slid down the wall until he was sitting next to me.
Did you hit me on purpose?
He asked. Well, no. I was newly dead and just learning the tricks.
Exactly.
He exclaimed.
An accident.
I sighed. This was the first conversation we had ever had. I was too ashamed to speak to him before except in anger.
This is depressing.
He jerked his head towards what was left of me. It was I told him. The back of my head is worse. You see the ball split my skull and, well, I had cats. Cats who ran out of food. It would probably be worse if you hadn't mistaken the house for an abandoned home and let them escape through the door you left open. He grinned at me for the first time.
Then you owe me one.
He said his name was Oliver. This was the first real conversation we'd ever had. I asked why he stayed.
My family, my wife and children,
He whispered.
they don't know what happened to me. I'm afraid they never will.
I nodded.
This was supposed to be a quick look inside an abandoned house, not my eternity.
We wait together now. We sit quietly in the living room waiting for what? Neither one of us knows. We rarely speak to one another. He doesn't care about my money, but he cries for his family sometimes in dark, quiet rooms. I hear him, but I don't have the skills to help him. So here we are, two lonely souls, passing like ghost ships on a lonely sea in the hallways, together yet apart, both of us doomed to guard the vault of silence for eternity.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. But above all else, have a nice day.